A third of the people love you, a third don't care about you, and a third hate you. So you concentrate on the third that love you and you go for it.
I think the greatest Achilles heel for leaders is they don't give themselves time to think.
So my journey is one of those, like, there are a lot of detours. There's a lot of going off on the side roads.
Thrive Out listeners, you're in for a treat. We're here with Jamal Mashburn,
Jesse Itzler,
the John Maxwell,
Jackie the Joke Man Martling, New York Rangers great Mike Richter,
Lisa Lampanelli,
Mary Carrillo.
Oh, how nice.
I'm actually going through the practice of being an entrepreneur.
Pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and thrive loud.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
I love it.
Hey, Thrive Loud listeners, Lou Diamond here. Pulled from Bedside Readings Authors That Thrive, we've got Kim Sakwa, the best-selling author of The Prophecy and Never Say Goodbye, and the hopeless romantic who's hooked on Happily Ever After. I have a fun conversation with this really great author. Sit back and relax and enjoy Kim Sakwa here on Thrive Loud.
Welcome to Bedside Readings Authors That Thrive, a podcast show that provides you exclusive access to top writers around the globe and how they are thriving through their writing, their passions, and their lives. Here's your host, Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to Bedside Readings Authors That Thrive, connecting you to amazing authors that are thriving through their work and in their lives each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today, we have a best-selling author for the time travel romances, The Prophecy and Never Say Goodbye. Hoping on occasion to fall through time herself, she settled on creating these stories instead. When not writing, you can find her with coffee in hand, walking the hills of Michigan Subdivision, listening to the soundtracks that she creates for her novels, and trying to figure out how to get online software to work. Hopeless romantic, hooked on Happily Ever After. Kim Sakwa, welcome to Authors That Thrive.
Hi, Lou. Thanks so much for having me today.
So, Kim, this is great stuff. I love people who have the creative minds and combine unique things together, which obviously is romance and maybe even a little sci-fi. I think our listeners really want to know how this became your focus and your thing.
Writing in general, or being an author, is something I think I always wanted to do. On my website, there's actually a biography, and it's funny. I would see pictures of authors and screenwriters, and they would be sitting at a desk with, a typewriter in front of them and a stack of paper. And there was just something, like, they had this gleam in their eye for the photographer, or that was captured. And I pictured myself. Like, that's who I wanted to be. That it was something that I connected with. And I was a voracious reader. When I was old enough, I loved the romance genre and historical romance. And there was something about time travel in my mind, and probably had a lot to do with my circumstances growing up.
Were you a time traveler?
I had a very vivid, no, but I had a vivid imagination, and I was left to my own devices a lot. And I think I created scenarios and stories in my head that made me feel safe and loved and protected. And I think that's really what was a catalyst to help me translate those feelings, those pictures in my head, into words on pages.
Do you believe that in telling those stories and pulling them out of yourself, you're connecting with that inner person in you, or is it how are you connecting to the reader? What is the way that you try to connect this message? Because it's pretty powerful, your stories, but you have a unique way of doing it.
Well, I really think that not every book is for everyone. That being, and not all stories are for everyone, but in the stories that I write, and it's funny, I don't have a formula of here's an outline and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to get from point A to point B. I have characters in my head truly that are alive, Lou, and their stories take on a life of their own. I mean, there are times where I'm sitting down and I'm writing a scene, and I listen to music. I don't know if we have time to talk about that or not later, but all of a sudden they do something, or I'll be thinking and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is what's happening. And it's not, like I said, it's not a formula that I plug in. These characters have a life of their own. And I guess I have a photographic memory. I see pictures in my head and I try to translate that to the pages. And if somebody connects with that, which I think that they have, I have a lot of reviews where people have really resonated with what I write. I also have a lot where they don't, which is okay too. Again, this is fantasy romance because it is a time travel. And I think I got lost with the question and the answer. You're going to have to help bring me back here.
I'll bring it right back to this part. So in helping to look at that image and the way you write and you see the picture and able to translate the visual you see of these living characters, how do these characters always have a romantic edge to them? What part of you is in that aspect of your stories?
Oh, I'm a hopeless romantic. I'm all about love and loyalty and having that hero or heroine, that person at your side that is always there for you. And whether that's something I've had or haven't had, it's so important to me. And it's something that I'm always maybe looking for or hoping for. And that's what I try to put in the pages, because I don't know if everybody has that. I mean, my website says, I still haven't found mine. So I'm going to keep writing about it.
Do you think these characters that live in your head or that live in your world, were they always with you, or did they come at different points and times in your life?
No, they come at different points and times. In fact, Graylin and Gwendolyn from The Prophecy were in my head for such a long time until I finally finished their story. And then, you know what? I was able to put them to bed, so to speak. Now I'm finishing Never Say Goodbye. It's Alexander and Amanda. They're in my head. They're a constant. They're who I wake up with in the morning and who I go to sleep with at night. And I write about them during the day. Those images in my head when I'm listening to music, I'm trying to translate that picture that I see so that reader can feel what I'm trying to convey and their story. It's their story. And at the heart of it, my stories are love stories at the very center.
Kim, you mentioned when you were talking about the way you visualize writing, you actually use the word scene, which is interesting, just in the sense that you're almost seeing it like a movie. And you also are very in tune to the sounds. Let's talk about the soundtracks and bringing this together. Is it like a movie, the way you're describing this, and kind of like playing in your head, and now you're almost creating the script and then the book from that?
You know what? It really is, because I have to tell you, music is so connected to my writing. When I'm writing a scene or when I'm listening to music, it's about that scene. There's a scene, a climax in Never Say Goodbye that I'm working on. And the song is, I'm trying to think, Coldplay, I Will Fix You. I think that's it. I'll have to, anyways, but when that song is on, I mean, there are certain parts of the music and a crescendo when there are, things happening that I have to relate that on paper. Like, how do I get the feeling and the emotion of how he and his guys are like running out the door and getting into a helicopter? How do I translate that? And it's so connected, Lou, to the music going on in the background. It's an intrinsic part of my writing.
It's interesting. And you like to do it. I noticed when walking, I ask most guests on this show, and you kind of answered it. When you have trouble thriving or you're looking for that creative thought, I guess, to write, who or what practice do you seek to get yourself back on the thriving track? Aside from those walks in the park, are there other things that you do?
There are times I can go on 3 walks a day, and I'm not talking about a stroll. I'm pounding the pavement and I am listening to music and I am working these things out in my head, or I'm working out life in my head. I always say I found out life is not puppies and rainbows, and that's why I like to write about it. That's why I like romance. It's a happily ever after, and it can be great. Why does it have to be filled with all of these other unfortunate circumstances or betrayals in life when I can write about some of those things, but at the end, it never involves the hero or heroine to a point where, something is shattered or destroyed.
What big takeaway do you want the listeners and the readers to get from your books? If there's something like some people write for a purpose to tell a great story, some people have an underlying message. What do you want to connect to your readers and these listeners that are hearing you now?
I just want somebody to be able to pick up my story and get lost, get lost in a great love story and characters that, they would want to be with or want to be. And to get to the end of the book where I have many times throughout my reading career in life, you finish a book and you're just sad it's over. Like, I love those characters, and I'll go back and I'll reread the last chapter, or I have favorite books that I pick up again and again and read. As some people like to watch movies over and over again, which I have to admit I do as well. I do the same thing with books.
Is there an author, a creator, if you would, could be a movie creator or a director, that you admire most since you're such a voracious reader and you love the movies?
I connect with so many authors. My favorites over the years have to be, hands down, just to name a few of the very many. I love Julie Garwood and her historicals. I love Sherry Adair and her T-Flack series, which is contemporary romance. I love Sherilyn Kenyon and her fantasy novels, the Dark Hunter series. And those are books that I reread over and over again.
As you start to think for the next idea, and I love asking people about the creative process, I guess you have these two books coming out, and I'm sure somewhere in that musically in tune brain of yours, there's more to come.
Oh, I have a bevy of them.
So I guess the question, actually, more than understanding what books are coming out, how do you keep them in isolation and focus on that story when those other ones keep popping in and they're screaming for attention to get their due on the paper?
So when I'm able to focus on writing, which I have found out the hard way and, being an independent author and publishing The Prophecy, it's a lot of work. Once I'm able to sit down and be creative and write, I'm just in there. Not that certain things don't fringe, like, oh, these characters, their story's going to be next. So yes, I have stories I've started on my computer that they're almost in a pecking order. Like, okay, you're next, guys, just calm down. I'm going to get there. But you just have to wait a little longer. But it's always there. But when I'm in it, which thank goodness I have been, there's no better place that I like to be than in the middle of my stories. I was sobbing during a scene yesterday, and it felt amazing. So when I'm actually able to create and write, everything else is not even white noise.
Kim, would you ever see a day that your story gets brought back so that others can see the vision that you had into film or TV or short stories or something like that? Obviously, that's always some form of dream, but how much would you want to be involved in the creative process if that were to happen?
I would love that. And I have to tell you, it's funny because, again, when I write, as you picked up on, I mean, it's almost like a screenplay. Key music. That's how I visualize things. So maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing is writing screenplays and not novels. I don't know, but this is good for now. But of course, I don't know if that's everybody's dream, but that would be incredible.
One last message, I guess you'd want all your listeners to hear, a certain takeaway. We love to ask the authors that thrive, something that listeners and readers can go away with as you as a writer and a creative person, a message maybe for them on the way that you've lived your life to create your products, but for them to maybe think about what they can do. Words of wisdom, if you would, Kim.
So what I have found, and not the easy way, but the hard way is, I always had a dream and I wasn't always able to see that through, but it was something that I fought for and I fought hard. And I would just say, maybe for me, it was the fear of not trying was worse than the fear of trying and failing. Like, don't be scared. What's the worst thing that can happen? Well, the worst thing that could happen is I'm going to write something and people aren't going to like it. Okay, but at least I tried. At least I can go to bed with a clear conscience that, you know what? I did what I felt in my heart I needed to do. That picture, and for me, it's so much about pictures. That picture in my head that I wanted to convey, I've been there and I'm doing it and I'm trying. So I don't feel like I'm missing a big piece of my life that is being unfulfilled.
Kim Sakwa, I can't thank you enough for having you on the show today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks so much, Lou, for having me. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
And to our listeners out there, keep thriving onward and upward. And thank you for joining us on Bedside Readings, Authors That Thrive.
Thank you for listening to Authors That Thrive, brought to you by Bedside Reading. To learn more about today's guest, head on over to bedsidereading.com. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, or follow us everywhere on social media at Bedside Reading.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and check us out on the web at thriveloud.com or follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud.